He thought it was just another lonely road in Texas. But in the heat and silence, evil wore a badge, a cop with hate in his eyes, a knife in his hand, and a target he thought was helpless. What he didn't know, Marcus Kane was no ordinary man, and beside him stood Rex, a German shepherd whose loyalty could tear fear itself apart. What happened next will make your heart race and believe in justice again. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. And if you believe no one is above the law, if you believe loyalty still wins against corruption, hit that subscribe button, because this story will stay with you forever. Texas in late spring was a land of contradictions. Green fields colliding with dust, open sky stretching over small towns where time seemed to slow to the pace of a ceiling fan in July. The morning had started gentle, with warm sun drifting through the pecan trees outside Marcus Kane's childhood home, and the smell of his mother's cornbread still lingering in his pickup's cab. But by afternoon, the clouds had gathered, heavy and yellow-edged, dragging a shadow over the endless two-lane road winding through tall grass and scrub oak. Marcus Kane drove with a patience that came from years of practice. In his mid-40s, he was a tall, broad-shouldered black man, his features softened by the kind of smile that survived too many storms. He kept his beard trimmed close, his hands rough from a lifetime of honest work, and his eyes both watchful and kind. There was a calm dignity in his manner, a quiet that put strangers at ease, but also kept them guessing. The faded blue work shirt he wore bore the faint logo of a union long since shut down. On his right wrist, the thin, pale scar of an old burn told stories he rarely spoke aloud. Beside him, head out the passenger window, was Rex, a German shepherd, nearly 9 years old, black and tan with fur dusted by silver at the muzzle and a pale line of scar along his right side. Rex was large even for his breed, the kind of dog whose steady gaze made children brave and grown men pause before raising their voices. His left ear stood tall while the right bent slightly, a relic of a rough start as a stray. In his presence, even the road seemed safer. For Marcus, Rex had become more than a companion. He was anchor, memory, and sometimes the only witness to small victories and invisible fears. As Marcus steered onto a stretch of county road with no name, he glanced at Rex and grinned. "Almost home, old friend." Rex's tail thumped twice against the seat, his amber eyes glinting with intelligence and unspoken understanding. It was on this stretch, no houses, only the distant shape of a weathered barn and the sharp scent of rain on hot earth, that Marcus noticed the patrol car. It had been hovering 2 car lengths behind since the last intersection, headlights unwavering. Marcus had learned long ago what that meant out here. Sometimes nothing, sometimes everything. He checked his speed 5 under the limit, checked his seatbelt, signaled before slowing at a wide patch of gravel. The cruiser pulled off behind him, lights flashing once before shutting off, as if just enough warning was needed. Marcus took a slow breath. "All right, Rex, let's be polite." His mother's voice echoed in his mind. "You give respect, son, even if it's not given back." Deputy Ray Danner emerged from the car. He was in his late 50s, stocky and sunburnt, a permanent scowl etched across a square jaw. His hair, the colors of dirty straw, was cut close to the scalp. His uniform, neat but stretched at the buttons. There was a swagger in his stride, a deliberate slowness. His eyes, blue and cold, flickered over Marcus before fixing on Rex. Danner rested one hand on the holster at his hip as he leaned in. "Afternoon, sir. Mind rolling your window all the way down?" Marcus complied, both hands on the wheel, posture practiced. "Good afternoon, officer. Is there a problem?" Danner peered at the license plate, then back at Marcus. "Your plate's almost unreadable. Lots of dust. We get a lot of city folks lost out here." "Where you headed from?" Marcus's voice was calm. "Heading home. Just left my mother's place." "Mm-hmm." Danner looked over the truck's interior, then at Marcus's skin, then back at Rex. "You been drinking today?" "No, sir." Marcus's hands remained still, every movement measured. Danner's eyes narrowed. "Step out for me, please." He kept his hand near his radio, but didn't call anything in. Marcus did as told, glancing at Rex, who stayed seated, watching Danner. Marcus stood by the fender, feet planted, the sun now ducking behind clouds, thickening the tension in the air. Danner circled the truck, running a finger along the license plate, then the tailgate. He knelt by the rear tire, doing something Marcus couldn't see, his broad back blocking the view. Marcus heard the faintest hiss and felt a cold knot in his chest. Danner stood. "Looks like your rear tire's low. These roads can be rough, especially for folks who don't belong." His voice dropped lower, laced with meaning. Marcus squared his shoulders. "I grew up here, sir." Danner smiled, a cold, knowing twist. "Maybe so. But you watch yourself, all right? Wouldn't want you stranded out here." He took a step closer, invading Marcus's space, gaze heavy with threat. "Sometimes people need reminders about where they fit." He jerked his chin at Rex. "That dog bite?" "Only if someone tries to hurt me," Marcus replied, quietly, but with a finality that made even Danner pause. Danner's eyes hardened. He moved as if to grab Marcus's arm, maybe to search him, maybe just to prove something. But in a flash, Rex lunged to the window, teeth bared, a deep, chesty growl vibrating through the air. He didn't bark or snap. He simply stood, immovable, between Marcus and danger. For one long moment, man and dog faced down the officer. Danner's bravado slipped, the hand at his side tightening on nothing. He took a step back, composure wobbling, then forced a laugh. "You keep that mutt on a leash. Next time, might not be so lucky." Marcus nodded, meeting his gaze evenly. "Next time, I hope you treat people better." Danner stomped to his car, slamming the door harder than necessary. The patrol car peeled away in a spray of gravel, leaving only the taste of dust and the rapid pounding of Marcus's heart. Marcus let out a slow breath and turned to Rex. "Thank you, partner," he whispered, scratching behind Rex's bent ear. Rex's tail wagged, a gentle, forgiving rhythm. The air seemed lighter, the clouds a little less oppressive. Back on the road, Marcus drove slower, every sense alert, but also filled with a new determination. Rex settled in, head on Marcus's lap, a silent promise that whatever storms came, they'd face them together. He thought back to the first day he met Rex at the animal shelter. The dog had been battered, labeled untrainable, his file marked with rejection after rejection. But when Marcus entered the kennel, Rex pressed his paw onto an old road atlas left on the concrete floor, eyes bright, refusing to give up, as if asking, "Will you carry this world with me?" It was that quiet plea, that strength inside a wounded creature that made Marcus say, "His name is Rex, he's the king of my heart, and he'll never be alone again." Morning in Eastonville was a careful negotiation between sun and storm, the Texas sky bruised purple and gold, promising rain but offering only humidity. The city was bigger than Marcus remembered, slick with new construction, but the heart of it still beat in the old places. Diners, corner stores, stoops with slow-moving neighbors and porch fans. Marcus guided his battered pickup down Main Street, Rex sitting tall in the passenger seat, eyes alert, his coat brushed to a copper shine in the rising light. After the tension of the night before, both man and dog seemed to breathe easier amid the bustle of civilization. He parked outside Daisy's Diner, a local institution with flaking turquoise paint and hand-drawn signs in the windows. The bell above the door chimed as they entered. The breakfast crowd was mostly older men with newsprint-stained fingers, women in floral dresses with soft, lined hands. Conversation quieted a beat too long as Marcus stepped in, the eyes of strangers lingering just a second longer than necessary. Some saw a black man from out of town and retreated into their coffee. Others remembered a face from years before, as a fireman running into burning houses when everyone else ran out. Behind the counter, Daisy herself, a woman in her late 60s with the upright carriage of a retired drill sergeant, gray curls piled atop her head, greeted Marcus with a warmth that never faded. "Lord, Marcus Kane, you get taller every year, and who's this handsome fellow?" she cooed, leaning down to scratch Rex behind the ears. Her hands were rough, her nails painted the color of sunrise. Daisy had always seen hearts, not headlines. "He's Rex," Marcus said, unable to hide his pride. "Saved my skin more than once." A few kids in a nearby booth, faces smudged with syrup, slipped out of their seats and tiptoed toward Rex. He wagged his tail, offering a gentle paw, tongue lolling in greeting. An elderly man, thin and stooped, approached with a cane. "You Marcus Kane? Used to be a firefighter?" Marcus nodded. The man grinned. "You pulled my grandson out of the Smithfield fire. Didn't care who owned the house or what the neighbors whispered. Good to see you still walking the walk, son." The exchange shifted something in the room. A few patrons looked away, uncomfortable, but others offered shy nods or raised their mugs in silent greeting. It was a small moment, but Marcus felt its weight, a challenge to old prejudice, a lesson in the power of presence. Rex, as always, seemed to sense the undercurrents, positioning himself so the kids could pet him safely while keeping an eye on Marcus. After a breakfast of eggs and black coffee, Marcus paid Daisy with an extra tip for the kindness. Back outside, he let Rex sniff the flower beds while he watched the flow of life. Mothers wrangling toddlers, city workers on break, teenagers daring each other to race across the street. Here, at least, they were just people. But Marcus knew the surface could be deceiving. He drove home through side streets, past rows of shotgun houses and the new city library, to a quiet block with oaks shading the cracked sidewalks. The house he entered looked plain-weathered brick, peeling trim, wild rose bushes run riot by the porch. Inside was another story. Past the kitchen, through a reinforced door camouflaged by coats and a mop, was a staircase leading to a basement. Marcus pressed his thumb to a sensor, entered a code, and waited as a hidden lock whirred open. Rex trotted ahead, tail high, as the world above faded into the hush of concrete and the faint hum of electronics. The command center, low ceilings, exposed pipes, walls lined with monitors and whiteboards, was alive with quiet focus. A multiracial team was already at work. Luisa Morales, Latina, late 20s, slight but fierce, hair pulled back in a bun, genius with forensic data. She worked 2 screens at once, voice quick, mind quicker. Derek Chu, Asian American, 40s, lean with precise movements, ex-cybercrimes, always in dark hoodies and wire-rimmed glasses, the silent fixer of broken networks and broken hearts. Tammy Hargrove, white, mid-30s, tall and athletic, a former beat cop from Dallas with eyes that missed nothing, arms covered in faded tattoos, each a memorial to a partner lost or a promise made. Tammy whistled as Rex patted in, her Texas twang warm. "Morning, General," she teased, giving Rex a pat and Marcus a mock salute. "Hope you brought that nose. We got a mountain of dirty laundry today." The team's chemistry was effortless. Here, color and background meant less than skill and loyalty. Marcus set his battered mug down and scanned the room. Maps of Texas pinned with colored flags, court filings, photos of officers and officials, red string linking stories across counties and years. It was an ant's nest of evidence, but there was order in the chaos. Luisa updated first. Danner's name came up again. Same 5 complaints, all lost in the system. There's chatter about a new payout in Red Oak, same shell companies as before. We're close to tracing the source. Derek added, "Digital trail's dirty, but Rex flagged a storage lot last week. Turns out one of Danner's cousins is on the lease." Rex, hearing his name, perked up and trotted to the whiteboard, nose twitching at the scent of a half-eaten granola bar Derek had stashed as a joke. Tammy, reviewing a fresh complaint file, paused and looked at Marcus. "That dog of yours knows trouble before it knocks. Maybe we ought to make him the boss." Marcus smiled, a rare, easy grin. "He already is, most days." The next few hours were a flurry of coordination. Marcus delegated. Luisa on financial records, Derek on surveillance cameras, Tammy out talking to witnesses. Rex lay in the center, tracking every sound, every footstep, always alert for what people missed. He caught the nervous tremor in a junior analyst's voice and sat by her side until her typing steadied. He barked only once, low and urgent, when a server crashed moments before Derek's monitor went black. To the team, Rex was more than a mascot. He was an early warning system, a keeper of morale, a reminder of why they fought. The day's work ended with a small victory. Luisa linked a suspicious wire transfer to a city official long thought untouchable. Marcus gathered the team for a debrief, his voice calm but resolute. "We're not here to judge a town by its history or each other by our skin. We're here because no one else will look out for the people caught in the cracks. This is where we make a difference together." Rex lay at Marcus's feet, head on his paws, amber eyes steady as the team made a pact wordless but binding. That evening, as the city lights flickered on above, Marcus and Rex stood in the quiet basement, listening to the hum of hope rekindled. For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt he belonged, not because of where he'd come from, but because of what he chose to stand for. Rain swept across Eastonville in gray sheets, flattening the dust and leaving the world scrubbed raw. The city's morning traffic glistened with neon reflections. Puddles gathered in the curb, hiding secrets beneath their trembling surfaces. At a small apartment complex just south of downtown, Leah Hayes pulled her coat tighter against her body and glanced over her shoulder for the third time in as many minutes. She was in her early 30s, medium height, slim but strong, her skin a rich brown, her hair pulled back in a loose, practical bun. Leah's eyes, usually warm, now darted anxiously behind smudged glasses. Her hands shook as she locked her door, one palm still clutching the crumpled note that had arrived under her doormat. Withdraw your statement or regret it. Leah had always been reserved a quiet force in her community, organizing block cleanups and tutoring kids after school. But when Deputy Danner attacked her during a late-night traffic stop, she hadn't planned to speak out. It was the fear in her teenage nephew's eyes that made her file a complaint. Instead of support, Leah got sidelong glances, hushed phone calls, and friends who just wanted to stay out of trouble. Even her neighbor, Mrs. Fielding, once quick with a pie and a hello now, only nodded from behind her curtains. That morning, as she rode the bus across town, the sky pressed low. Leah clutched her purse and the note, willing herself not to cry in front of strangers. When she reached the small house on Oakview, the one that looked like any other from the outside, she hesitated at the porch, heart pounding, rain seeping into her shoes. She rang the bell and waited. Tammy Hargrove opened the door, her tall, athletic frame blocking the entry like a shield. She took one look at Leah and ushered her inside, voice kind but brisk. You're safe here. Come on, let's get you warm. Inside, the command center hummed with quiet focus. Derek Chu offered Leah a mug of tea, his dark eyes soft behind rimless glasses. Luisa Morales gave her a reassuring nod from behind her laptop, where columns of numbers marched across the screen. Marcus approached, dressed in jeans and a blue button-down, his stance open, his voice gentle. Leah, I'm glad you came. Rex trotted over, tail wagging low, his black and tan fur still gleaming from a recent brushing. The big dog paused, nose twitching, then sat at Leia's feet and rested his broad head on her knee. Leah froze, then managed a watery smile as she stroked his fur. The trembling in her hands slowed. Marcus led her to the corner sofa, the team giving her space but quietly attentive. We're here to listen. No pressure. Whatever you need to say or not say is fine. For a moment, Leah couldn't speak. Her throat closed tight. Then, feeling Rex's steady weight beside her, she found the words. The threat started last week. At first, just phone calls, hang-ups, then the note. She opened her purse and handed it to Marcus, who read it, brow furrowed. And the neighbors, they act like I'm the problem now, like speaking up put a target on all of us. Tammy nodded. We've seen it before. People want safety, so they freeze. But you did the right thing. We're with you. Leah glanced at Rex, who pressed closer, his eyes never leaving her face. He reminds me of my old dog, Jasper. Jasper always knew when I needed a friend. Marcus gave a small smile. Rex has a sixth sense for worry. He's gotten us out of trouble more than once. Slowly, as the rain tapped the windows, Leah told her story. She described the night Danner pulled her over, how his tone shifted when he saw her license, how rough his hands were as he searched her car, the threats murmured so no camera would catch them. He said I should know my place, that nobody would believe me anyway, and then he laughed like it was just a game. Tammy's jaw tightened, but she didn't interrupt. Derek scribbled notes while Luisa flagged police logs on her monitor. Marcus listened, gaze unwavering, his respect for Leah growing with every word. And a few nights ago, Leah whispered, I saw him meet a man behind the old warehouse on 5th and Main. They passed something, an envelope, maybe cash. I was coming home late from my second job. I don't think they saw me. Marcus nodded, catching the glance Derek shot him, confirmation that the tip fit their investigation. You did the right thing telling us, and we'll protect you. Leah covered her face, tears escaping at last. I just want to sleep without worrying who's outside my window. I want to be able to walk my nephew to school. Rex nosed her hand, then settled at her feet, a living wall between her and the world. For the first time in weeks, Leah's shoulders relaxed. Thank you, she murmured. All of you. But especially him. He doesn't care who I am or what I did, he just cares. Tammy drew the blinds and set up a basic security system for Leah's phone and apartment. Marcus walked her home, Rex at their side, not so much as barking at the thunder. On the way, neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. One young mother waved, uncertain at first, then offered a quiet, "If you need anything, I'm next door." It was the smallest gesture, but it meant the world. As they reached her door, a boy from the second floor, maybe 8, freckles and cautious, stood waiting, clutching a napkin-wrapped cupcake. "My grandma said you might like this, Miss Hayes. Sorry we haven't said hi in a while." His smile was shy, but genuine. Leia knelt and accepted the treat, eyes filling again, not with fear, but gratitude. "Thank you, sweetie. That means a lot." Rex gave the boy a gentle nudge, tail thumping. The boy grinned and ran upstairs. Back at headquarters, Marcus briefed the team. They would rotate patrols near Leia's building, keep an eye on the warehouse, and begin the work of untangling Danner's web. "This is why we do what we do," he said quietly. "No one stands alone, not anymore." That night, as the rain finally stopped and the world seemed to breathe again, Leia sat by her window. The lights in the building across the way glowed warm. Rex's steady gaze imprinted in her memory made her feel, for the first time in a long time, truly safe. A restless wind swept through Eastonville as evening fell, carrying the distant rumble of thunder and the scent of approaching rain. The city's skyline blinked orange and pink, but beneath its surface, unease simmered, a tension that even the weather seemed to mimic. In the command center's basement, Marcus hunched over a file while Rex dozed at his feet, the dog's ears occasionally twitching at sounds only he could hear. The day had been long. Louisa digging through bank statements, Derek chasing digital ghosts, Tammy interviewing a rookie officer too scared to speak on the record. Yet as the sun slipped behind the courthouse, the whole team felt a strange weight, as if something urgent was pressing in on all sides. Tammy's phone buzzed. She frowned, reading a text from her contact at the police evidence storage unit across town. "Alarm tripped. Smells like electrical short. Boss says to ignore. You trust it?" Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What's the address?" Tammy rattled it off. Derek checked the city grid. "Power's been flickering in that zone all week. Could be nothing. Could be a cover." Louisa muttered, "Every dirty cop in 3 counties would kill for those files." Marcus clipped Rex's harness and led him to the truck. The night was thickening, clouds heavy above, and lightning stitched the sky in crooked silver seams. Tammy joined them, her athletic build bristling with tension, short hair tucked beneath a battered Astros cap. "I'll run the perimeter. You two take the east entrance." Louisa and Derek, staying behind, monitored the building's exterior cameras and the city scanner. The evidence warehouse sat at the edge of the industrial district, its corrugated walls faded and streaked with rust, a lone security light casting long shadows across the lot. As they approached, Rex stiffened. The big dog's nose lifted, tail gone rigid. Marcus trusted that more than any alarm. "Something's wrong," he murmured. Tammy scanned the lot, hand on her flashlight. The warehouse manager, a stooped, heavy-set man in his 50s named Carl, stood at the front door, fidgeting with his keyring. "You the alarm guys? I called, but nobody picked up. Must be a false trip. I was just locking up." His voice was nervous, eyes sliding away from Marcus's. Tammy showed her badge part of a municipal security program they were quietly part of. "Mind if we take a look, Carl?" Carl hesitated, then shrugged, unlocking the door. The interior was shadowed and musty, racks stacked high with battered file boxes, plastic bins, old evidence lockers. Marcus flipped on his headlamp, the narrow beam picking out dust motes swirling in the stagnant air. Rex tugged at his lead, nose low to the floor. Marcus let him take the lead. Suddenly, Rex stopped at the side wall where a small utility door hung slightly ajar. He growled, sniffing deeply. "He's got something," Marcus said. Tammy ducked through the door, flashlight sweeping the darkness. The scent hit her, a sharp tang of gasoline, out of place among the smells of paper and mold. "Tammy, step back," Marcus called. He pulled her out just as Rex backed away, ears flattened. In the faint light, Marcus saw a plastic bottle tucked behind a crate, rags stuffed in the top, a crude Molotov cocktail, ready to ignite. "Call it in. We've got an arson attempt." Tammy radioed for fire and backup while Marcus, heart pounding, searched the room for more accelerants. He found 2 more bottles, hidden under stacks of files marked pending review. Rex circled, still alert, then stopped at a support column, nose twitching again. He pawed at the ground. Marcus knelt and found a thin trickle of fuel leading toward a power strip, an attempt to make the fire look like an accident. Within minutes, the fire brigade arrived, lights flashing in the gloom. The firefighters moved quickly, venting the space and securing the accelerants. One of them, Sarah Bennett, a sturdy woman in her late 30s with freckles across her nose and a quick, dry wit, greeted Marcus with a slap on the back. "You again, Kane? What did you rescue this time?" Marcus managed a grim smile. Truth, maybe. While the fire captain made his report, Tammy pulled up security logs. She found that the only other person logged into the warehouse that evening was a temporary janitor, a name no one recognized. Derek, patched in by phone, ran a search and flagged the ID, a recently issued temp pass, not from city payroll, but from a private contractor tied to a dummy corporation. Someone wanted these files gone, Derek said, voice tense in Marcus's ear, and wanted it to look like an electrical fire. As Marcus and Sarah walked the aisles, the sharp smell of gasoline faded, replaced by something oddly sweet, a whiff of expensive cologne, sharp and citrusy, out of place in the warehouse. Rex sneezed, then huffed, tail stiff. He led Marcus to the break room, where a rag with the same cologne lay discarded in the trash. Sarah wrinkled her nose. "That's not janitor scent. That's City Hall." Tammy, ever the skeptic, sniffed the rag, then grinned. "Somebody got too fancy." She bagged the evidence. "We'll see if it matches anyone in the registry." Carl, the manager, now pale and sweating, swore he hadn't seen anyone unusual. But as Rex nudged his knee, Carl's story wavered. Under gentle but firm questioning, Carl admitted he'd been paid to ignore the temp janitor, just for one night. Nothing bad, just to run out and grab dinner. By dawn, the worst was over. The arson attempt failed, the files remained untouched. Sarah and her crew set up air scrubbers. Marcus and Tammy pored over the boxes, and Rex finally flopped down for a well-earned nap, one paw resting protectively atop a folder labeled Danner Unresolved. Later that morning, the team gathered in the basement command center. Louisa finished cataloging the saved evidence, while Derek cross-referenced fingerprints from the cologne rag. Tammy grinned, giving Rex an extra treat. "Saved the city again, big guy." Marcus addressed the group, voice steady and full of quiet gratitude. "We stopped them tonight because we paid attention to what others missed. Because Rex listened with more than his nose, he listened to the wind, to danger, to the heartbeats of the people we're fighting for." As the rain finally broke, washing clean the city's battered streets, hope felt real, a flame stubbornly burning in the wake of every storm. Dusk settled over the industrial fringe of Eastonville, painting the world in a dull haze of rust, oil stains, and flickering sodium lamps. Marcus sat in the cab of an old city-owned van parked behind a loading dock, the metal warm beneath him and the air heavy with the scent of rain from the night before. Next to him, Rex kept vigil, the dog's muscular body coiled with anticipation, ears pricked forward at every distant clang or murmur. Marcus checked his phone. Derek's latest text flashed, "Danner on the move, all eyes on the Blue Warehouse, Dock 14. Marcus glanced in the rear view. Nothing but an empty access road and the blinking signal of a half-broken streetlight. Tonight's plan was simple in theory, dangerous in practice. They had traced Danner's dealings to this warehouse, an abandoned shipping hub on the edge of the train tracks, now repurposed for late-night meetings of men who lived in the cracks of law and commerce. Marcus wore dark clothes and a battered cap, moving like a shadow. Tammy was nearby, dressed in warehouse coveralls, ready to slip in if things went sideways. Louisa and Derek manned surveillance from a van up the block, earpieces in, voices tense with focus. The warehouse loomed like a sleeping beast, rows of loading bays, doors chained, windows painted over. Security was patchwork. An old guard named Jimmy, bald with a faded tattoo of a snake on his forearm, who barely looked up from his paperback when Marcus and Rex arrived. "Can't have the dog in there," Jimmy muttered, eyeing Rex with more wariness than the supposed dock supervisor badge Marcus flashed. "Union rules. You want in? Pup waits outside." Marcus pretended to grumble but tethered Rex to a pole near the entrance, whispering, "Watch my back." Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint smell of rubber. Marcus kept to the shadows as voices echoed from the far end, Danner's deep, blustering drawl, unmistakable, joined by two others, a weaselly man with a nasal voice, and another, calm and dangerous, speaking Spanish-accented English. They clustered around a metal table strewn with paperwork, cash bundles, and a battered laptop. Crates marked with city inventory stickers formed a makeshift barricade. "Relax," Danner said, slapping a folder. "With these, nobody's touching us. The originals are gone. The copies say whatever we want." Marcus listened, heart pounding, as the Weasley man replied, "You better hope nobody's tailing you, Ray. Alder wants this clean. If anybody's sniffing—" He was cut off by a distant metallic bang. Outside, Rex whined, muscles bunching. He caught the scent of fear and adrenaline on the breeze. Jimmy the guard, now restless, double-checked the padlock on the side door, muttering about damn cops and their dogs. Rex watched him disappear inside, then, nose to the ground, padded along the wall. He found a window left cracked for air. Years of canine training kicked in. He listened, caught Danner's voice, heard Marcus's muffled footsteps. When a sudden shout erupted, a crate crashing, Jimmy cursing Rex's hackles rose. Inside, Marcus had been spotted by the Weasley man, who pointed, "Who's that?" Marcus ducked behind a pillar, cursing under his breath. He texted Derek, "Compromised. Need distraction." As the men spread out, Danner brandished a flashlight, cursing the damn power outages. Marcus needed time seconds only. Outside, Rex spotted the red-painted pull of the fire alarm box, half hidden by crates. With a leap and a swipe of his heavy paw, he yanked the lever. The old alarm shrieked into the night, klaxons blaring, lights flashing. Panic broke inside. Men cursed, someone bolted for the rear door. Jimmy ran outside, waving his arms. "False alarm, system's busted!" But chaos was enough. Marcus slipped from his hiding place, darted past the distracted men, and texted Tammy, "Now, bring back up." The Weasley man tried to grab a stack of cash, but Danner shouted, "Leave it, out the back!" In the confusion, Rex slipped in as workers streamed out, lunged between legs, and blocked the path of the two fleeing accomplices. He barked a deep, echoing warning, then leaped, knocking one man flat and standing over him, fangs bared. The second tried to scramble away, but Rex grabbed his jacket, holding him until Marcus and Tammy burst through, badges out, guns drawn. In the chaos, Derek and Louisa called the police. Real officers arrived within minutes. Tammy cuffed Danner's men while Marcus searched the scene, gathering the real files documents with unbroken seals, digital backups, and a battered thumb drive Danner had tried to pocket. As police lights spun across the lot, bystanders began filming on their phones. One caught the moment Rex stood tall, tail wagging, as a freed warehouse worker hugged him in gratitude. The clip would go viral by morning. "Hero dog stops corrupt cops." Old Jimmy, stunned, saluted Rex, muttering, "Damn fine animal." The air was thick with adrenaline, but in the aftermath, Marcus knelt by Rex, hugging the big shepherd. "You did it, boy. Saved us all." Tammy grinned, ruffling Rex's fur. "I owe you steak for a month." Back at headquarters, the team reviewed their haul. Evidence in hand, a key link in Danner's network was exposed. News crews called, community leaders praised Rex's courage. Even some skeptics in the city changed their tone, seeing the line between justice and power drawn sometimes by a dog's steadfast heart. The first hints of dawn crept through rain-washed windows, painting the city in a soft, uncertain gold. In the command center, the team was already running on caffeine and adrenaline, the basement humming with a strange mix of hope and exhaustion. The previous night's warehouse raid had brought a windfall of evidence boxes stacked high, digital files encrypted and copied, interviews transcribed in tight, nervous handwriting. Derek hunched over a battered laptop, code flashing across his glasses. Louisa sorted files by number and date, her fingers flying as if she could outpace the weight of what they were about to uncover. Tammy moved between them, reading, checking, muttering doubts under her breath. At the center of it all, Marcus stood tall but heavy-eyed, every muscle wound tight with determination. Rex, for once, looked restless pacing, tail low, nose twitching at the edges of cardboard and ink. Tension simmered beneath the surface. Louisa was first to speak it aloud, her voice sharp with worry. "Some of these files, the seals look new, too new. There's dust on the boxes, but not on the labels. Why would old evidence have fresh seals?" Derek's eyes narrowed. "You think someone swapped the documents?" Tammy's jaw set. "Wouldn't be the first time. Danner had months to bury things. Maybe Alder, too." The name landed heavy in the room. Alder, the shadowy power broker suspected of pulling strings behind the scenes. Arguments flickered. Should they trust the backup drives? Was there a mole in the city archives? Tammy slammed a folder shut. "We can't move on Alder if we can't trust our own chain of evidence." For a moment, the trust they'd built over months felt paper-thin, worn by pressure, and too many nights chasing the ghosts of corruption. That's when Rex, usually content to nap in a sunny corner, began to pace the rows of boxes, his big nose working overtime. He stopped at a battered crate in the corner, sniffed, then moved on, only to double back, pawing at the seam. Louisa frowned. "What's up, big guy?" Marcus watched as Rex circled again, this time barking a single, sharp warning. Marcus knelt, running his hand along the side. "He's on something." He lifted the lid, and a wave of musty, almost sweet scent rose up old paper, tinged with mildew, nothing like the crisp smell of new office supplies. Derek flipped through the top few folders, then blinked. "Wait, these dates, they're older than the box's label." Tammy grabbed a flashlight, illuminating the back panel. There, taped flat, was a false bottom behind it. Dozens of yellowed case files, many stamped confidential, others marked for destruction but never actually processed. Louisa's hands shook as she read the first page. "This is it. These are the original witness statements, names, addresses, even video stills. All the stuff Danner was supposed to turn in. The other files were fakes planted to make us chase our own tails." Derek ran a cross-check on the digital backups. Sure enough, the data was doctored to match the swapped files, covering someone's tracks right up to the last moment. But why hide them so carelessly? Tammy wondered aloud. Rex sat back on his haunches, watching the humans scramble. His tail thumped once, a simple, quiet confidence. Marcus gave him a slow smile, because they thought no one would look past what was obvious, or trust the nose of a dog with nothing to lose. With the originals recovered, the mood in the room shifted. The team's nerves taut as piano wires eased. Derek looked at Marcus, sheepish. "Sorry, boss, I let the paranoia get to me." Louisa nodded, tears in her eyes. "We needed this. We needed to know the truth was still out there." Tammy ruffled Rex's fur, her voice suddenly warm. "I'd take a dog over half this city council any day." With the help of the true documents, Louisa built a new timeline linking Danner's dealings to larger patterns of bribery, blackmail, and intimidation. Names long whispered as rumors became real dates and payoffs tracked to a network that, at its heart, always led back to Alder. "Look at this," Derek called, scrolling through digital receipts. "Alder's signature hidden in the fund transfers, the shell companies, the fake invoices. We have a direct line from Danner's dirty work to Alder's office." Tammy, still skeptical, pressed for more. "We need someone to back this up, someone on the inside." Marcus nodded. "We'll get it. But this," he gestured to the files, "is how we make sure no one buries the truth again." As the team organized the evidence for the DA, word of the discovery filtered out to their supporters in the city. Community groups, once hesitant, now rallied behind them. Calls and messages of support flooded in. Even the mayor's office, so often silent, issued a guarded statement promising to review all recent developments in light of new evidence. That evening, Marcus found a quiet moment in the corner of the command center. He knelt and hugged Rex, his voice low and full of gratitude. "You never let us give up, did you?" Rex licked his hand, then rested his big head on Marcus's knee as if to say, "This is what I'm here for." Louisa brought over a plate of homemade cookies, her way of apologizing for earlier doubt, and Derek played an old soul record on the tinny basement speakers. Tammy, uncharacteristically gentle, read aloud from one of the recovered witness statements, her voice steady and full of hope. There, in the hush between storms, the team felt something rare and precious, trust restored. They understood, in a way deeper than words, that truth isn't found in headlines or polished speeches. It's in the stubborn loyalty of a team, in the patience to look twice, and in the courage to believe a tired old dog can still save the day. Night had a different texture in Eastonville now. After the team's recent breakthroughs, the city seemed restless, windows shut a little tighter, porch lights burned longer, and even the wind carried an edge of anticipation. In a modest duplex at the end of Maple Lane, Leia Hayes paced the small living room, worry etching new lines on her face. Leia was usually calm, a steady, gentle soul with a quiet authority, but tonight her slender shoulders were hunched and her hands kept fluttering to her phone. Her daughter, Trinity, 7 years old and all legs, curls, and wide brown eyes, sat curled on the sofa with a picture book open but unread. Over the past week, strangers had started appearing on the block. Unmarked cars idled across the street, headlights doused. Once, a man in a black hoodie had loitered by the fence, pretending to tie his shoes for a little too long. Neighbors who used to chat outside now ducked inside at dusk. Trinity, brave as any second grader could be, had begun making excuses not to walk to school. "My tummy hurts," she'd whisper, voice trembling, and Leia would squeeze her hand and say, "We'll be okay. Mama's here." That night, as thunder cracked and rain tapped against the window, Leia double-checked the locks. Her phone chimed a message from Marcus. "We're watching the house. Call if you hear anything strange." Leia exhaled, but sleep would not come easy. At the command center, Marcus, Derek, and Tammy sat before a wall of monitors showing live security feeds from Leia's block. Rex lay beside Marcus, restless, his golden eyes flicking to the screens and then to the door. At 1:18 a.m., Derek stiffened. "There, alley cam, someone moving by Leia's back fence." Marcus didn't hesitate. He clipped on Rex's harness, signaled Tammy, and grabbed his badge. "Let's go." The rain fell harder as they sped across town, police radio buzzing with weather alerts and small-town drama. Marcus's mind ran through every scenario, but Rex was already keyed up, nose pressed to the window, tail rigid. In Leia's kitchen, a faint rattle at the back door woke her. She rose silently, gesturing for Trinity to stay hidden on the sofa. In the darkness, a figure jimmied the lock, gloved hands slick with rain. Leia's heart hammered. She reached for her phone, but the signal was weak. The lock gave way with a soft click. The intruder, a tall, wiry man in black, his face hidden by a cap slipped inside, flashlight flickering across the linoleum. He moved with purpose, heading toward Leia's file cabinet. Leia's breath caught. She tried to back away quietly, but a loose board creaked. In that instant, headlights flashed outside. Marcus and Tammy burst through the front, Rex at Marcus's heel. Rex caught the scent first: fear, sweat, cheap cologne. The shepherd exploded forward, muscle and instinct, barking with a force that filled the house. The intruder spun, flashlight swinging wildly. Tammy shouted, "Police! Drop it!" But the man lunged for the files. Rex leapt, placing himself between the man and the cabinet, teeth bared in a silent warning. The intruder hesitated, then tried to shove past. Rex snapped at his arm, driving him back. In the chaos, Marcus tackled the man, pinning him to the ground. Tammy cuffed him, reading rights over the echo of barking and thunder. Leia, shaken but unhurt, gathered Trinity into her arms as Marcus checked them over. Trinity buried her face in Rex's fur, whispering, "Thank you, hero dog." Leia's hands trembled as she hugged Marcus. I thought it was over. Thank you." Outside, police cars flashed red and blue across wet pavement. The intruder was marched out cursing by 2 officers from the local precinct. One of them, Officer Jarvis, a soft-spoken black man with a kind face and steady hands, offered Leia his own raincoat. "You and your daughter need anything? You call me, all right?" Back at the command center, Derek combed through the man's phone, finding messages that linked him to Danner's circle and a plan to destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses. "He wasn't just random," Derek told Marcus. "He's been on Alder's payroll for months." With the threat neutralized, Marcus helped Leia and Trinity pack a few bags. The team arranged for them to stay at a church-run safe house on the edge of town, run by Sister Eleanor, a stout, silver-haired woman with a perpetual twinkle in her eye and an ironclad sense of justice. "My house has weathered worse than this," she told Leia, squeezing her hand. "You and your baby are safe here." Word spread quickly through Maple Lane. Neighbors who'd once turned away now stepped up. Mr. Kruger from next door hammered new locks on Leia's doors. The woman across the street left casseroles and handwritten prayers on the porch. The local church offered rides to school and late-night check-ins. Even Trinity's teacher organized a Hero Dog Day at school, bringing Rex in to meet the kids. Trinity beamed as she introduced her 4-legged protector to the class, her fear fading as her classmates cheered. By week's end, Leia's old isolation had dissolved. The community stood up, drawing together against the shadow that had threatened one of their own. Leia, once just a name on a complaint, became a neighbor again. Trinity, brave and proud, told anyone who would listen, "Rex keeps us safe. He's our shield." At a small Sunday service, Pastor Brown, a gentle giant of a man, always in rolled shirt sleeves, spoke of courage and the power of standing together. "It takes just one light to drive out the dark," he said. "Sometimes that light has 4 paws and a heart as big as Texas." That evening, as the sun set and peace settled on Maple Lane, Marcus knelt beside Rex in the yard of the safe house. He ruffled the big dog's ears, voice thick with gratitude. "You did it, partner. You kept them safe." Rex leaned into the touch, gaze steady, as if to say, "This is why I'm here." Inside, Leia and Trinity finally slept soundly. The world had changed, but for the first time in weeks, hope was stronger than fear. The courthouse in Eastonville, usually a place of bureaucratic routine and slow justice, was alive with tension as the Alder case came to trial. News vans lined the street, satellite dishes sprouting like metallic sunflowers. Local families peered from behind columns, their faces anxious, hopeful, or simply curious. The building itself, red brick, white columns, weathered by decades of storms, seemed to vibrate with the possibility that, for once, truth might be heard above the noise. Inside, the air buzzed with competing energies. Alder's supporters, polished in city suits and neat hair, filled the front rows with cold confidence. Across the aisle, community members in Sunday best clutched hands and whispered prayers. Judge Monroe, a dignified black woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and sharp, compassionate eyes, presided over the bench. She was known for her fairness, her patience, and for a look that could silence a room with a glance. Alder, tall and imperious in a gray suit, radiated unshakable poise. Her hair was perfectly arranged, her expression at once humble and quietly superior. She let the press see her wipe a tear as she spoke to her lawyer, performing sorrow, loss, and martyrdom in every gesture. She gave interviews on the courthouse steps, claiming she was the victim of a politically motivated witch hunt. "These so-called reformers," she declared, casting a look toward Marcus's team, "want chaos, not order. They threaten the very stability our city has worked for generations to build." Inside, Marcus sat among his team, Tammy in a borrowed suit, Derek with a briefcase full of digital evidence, Louisa clasping her lucky pendant, and Leah Hayes with her hands folded over Trinity's. Rex lay quietly at Marcus's feet, calm but watchful, his presence reassuring to all who remembered his heroics. The first hours of testimony were combative. Alder's lawyer attacked the investigation as a vendetta, and he accused Marcus's team of tampering with evidence, of emotional manipulation, and trial by media. Marcus took the stand, steady and understated. His deep voice recounted the chain of evidence, the digital logs, the real witness statements. When Alder's lawyer pressed him, Marcus simply repeated the truth, each fact checked and cross-checked, each memory supported by documents or testimony. Then Leah spoke. Her voice shook, but she stood tall. "I was scared," she admitted. "But people like Marcus and his friends and Rex showed me I didn't have to be." She looked Alder in the eye. "It's not weakness to ask for help. It's courage to tell the truth." Officer Jarvis, the gentleman who'd helped Leah after the break-in, added his account, describing intimidation from colleagues and the pressure to stay silent. "But you can't bury the truth forever," he said quietly. "Not in this town. Not anymore." The court watched videos. The warehouse raid, Rex's rescue, community rallies. News of Rex's loyalty and courage had swept the city, and, as Judge Monroe noted, sometimes a dog's sense of right and wrong is clearer than a politician's. In a moment that silenced the room, Marcus asked the court's permission for Rex to approach the witness stand. Judge Monroe agreed, a gentle smile softening her features. Rex trotted forward and sat, perfectly still, golden eyes fixed on Alder. There was no aggression, only steady, unwavering attention. The moment felt bigger than any argument. Even the jurors, hardened by weeks of testimony, blinked back tears. Alder, ever the performer, tried to use her closing argument to sway the court. "This is a lynching," she said, her voice rising. "They want to destroy everything we've built. I've sacrificed for this city. I'm the scapegoat for their rage." But Marcus rose one last time. "No, ma'am," he said, quiet but implacable. "You were trusted with power. You chose to use it to silence and to steal. That's not leadership. That's betrayal, and there's nothing noble in that." The verdict came quickly. Guilty on every count. Conspiracy, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice. Danner and his co-conspirators were sentenced, stripped of badges and pensions. Alder was led from the courthouse in handcuffs, her head still high, but the crowd outside made it clear. The city's faith lay elsewhere now. Reporters swarmed Marcus and his team as they emerged, but he paused only to thank the community. "This was never about one person," he said. "It was about the line we hold, between fear and hope, between silence and truth. Sometimes the line is a man with his friends. Sometimes it's a dog who never gives up." Rex became the darling of Eastonville. Local TV ran stories of his rescues, and the mayor awarded him a Medal of Valor at a city park, attended by families, teachers, and kids who chanted his name. At a picnic celebration, children swarmed him, and Trinity, now radiant with confidence, led him around the playground. Even Judge Monroe showed up, sharing lemonade and laughter. Tammy, Derek, and Louisa lingered at the edge of the festivities, smiling as they watched Marcus toss a ball for Rex on the grass. Laya, surrounded by neighbors and friends, wiped away happy tears as the church choir sang a hymn for the ones who kept us safe. As the sun set on Eastonville, a new sense of peace settled over the town. The case files that had once gathered dust now shone in the open, justice restored. Marcus knelt beside Rex under the old oak tree, scratching the dog's ears. "Ready for the next adventure, partner?" Rex wagged his tail, eyes bright as if to answer, "Always." And so the line held, not because of force, but because of loyalty, love, and the courage to stand together when it matters most. In the fading light, the sound of children's laughter and a dog's joyful bark promised that, in Eastonville, justice was no longer just a dream. In the end, maybe the greatest miracle is not found in courtroom victories or breaking news, but in the quiet, ordinary choices we make each day, to stand up, to care, to protect each other, even when no one is watching. Some would say it was luck, or clever plans, or just a faithful dog and a determined team that brought justice back to Eastonville. But I believe it was something more, a gentle nudge from above, a reminder that when good people refuse to give in to fear, when we stand together in love and courage, God moves in the background, working wonders we may never fully see. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to reflect on the blessings in your own life, the loyal friend, the helping neighbor, the small acts of courage that change everything. Miracles do not always come as thunder or lightning. Sometimes they are as simple as a child's laughter, a dog's loyalty, or a stranger's kindness when hope feels lost. If you believe in second chances, if you believe that faith and goodness can transform even the darkest night, let's share this message. Comment, "Amen" if you agree. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that they are not alone. Subscribe to the channel to join our community of hope and healing. And may God bless and protect you and your loved ones every day, guiding your steps and filling your home with light and peace. Thank you for watching. Remember, even a small act of love can be the answer to someone's silent prayer. Amen.